Hello, this is Casey Blaha, an MD PhD student at the University of Illinois at Chicago College of Medicine. This video is part of our Survivors Advising Scientists educational program, a bidirectional educational platform meant to connect our communities and increase scientific literacy and engagement. Our goal is to bring everyone to the table for scientific discussions related to cancer science and therapies. This is video number 1, Cellular Components. What makes up a cell? There are around 30 trillion cells in the human body. Throughout this module, we are going to build one cell together. We are going to learn about what the different components of the cell are and their various functions. The various components or subcellular structures can also be called organelles. I like to think of the cell as a mini factory, or for fun, a candy factory. The organelles are the parts of the factory. Importantly, not all cells or factories are built the exact same way, but we will demonstrate the typical components in an average healthy cell type. Of note, the colors in the slide are not representative and don't have any particular meaning. First, we have the plasma membrane on the outside of the cell. If we zoom in closer, we can see that it is made up of 2 layers and is called a phospholipid bilayer. A phospholipid is made up of a phosphate head and 2 fatty acid chains making up the tail. The head is hydrophilic, meaning loves water, whereas the tail is hydrophobic, meaning hates water. This double layer allows separation of the fluid outside of the cell from the fluid inside the cell. The fluid inside the cell is the intracellular fluid, or cytoplasm, which is the light purple color. This phospholipid layer functions to protect the cell and can be thought of as the factory wall, demonstrated in this picture. Next, we have the nucleus. This is where the DNA is stored in the cell for our candy factory. This is the room where the blueprints are kept. And the blueprints are the genes or the DNA that codes the instructions to build the different components of the cell. Listen to Module 3 to learn more about genes. The next organelle is rough endoplasmic reticulum, or rough ER. It functions to produce protein. You can think of it as the assembly line making the different candies. Now we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or smooth ER. This is where lipids are made or synthesized. You can think of it as the accessory manufacturing or assembly line, where decorations or candy wrappers can be added to the candy. The next organelle are ribosomes, which are the small dots. Ribosomes are organelles that make protein from RNA. They can be thought of as the assembly workers. The rough ER is rough because it has ribosomes attached to it, which are helping assemble the protein. Next, we have the Golgi apparatus. It functions to help process and package proteins and lipid molecules, specifically proteins destined to be exported from the cell. It is like the shipping area of the factory, where candy gets packaged to be shipped out of the cell. These pink-like organelles are called mitochondria. They are thought of as the powerhouse of the cell. They help with energy production for the cell and are similar to a power plant. The next organelles are the lysosomes. They contain digestive enzymes and help break down excess or worn out cell parts. They help recycle the protein, carbohydrates, and lipids. They are the recycling area of the factory. They can also be used to destroy invading viruses and bacteria. They are very acidic inside and can engulf bacteria to break it down with the help of enzymes. They can be thought of as the security for the factory. Next are peroxisomes. They break down lipids and is where fatty acid metabolism occurs, which provide a source of energy. You can think of this as an incinerator, where fatty acids or candy wrappers are broken down to be used for energy. The next organelle introduced are vesicles and vacuoles, which are membrane-bound sacs that function in transport and storage. You can think of them as the trucks or carts in the factory that help move things around. As demonstrated in the image, the vacuoles are larger vesicles. Vesicles can fuse with other membranes within the cell system and transport different components around the cell, such as moving proteins from the outside of the cell to a lysosome on the inside. Last but not least, we have the cytoskeleton, which is a microscopic network of protein filaments and tubules in the cytoplasm. You can think of this as the support structure in the factory or insulation. We did it. We have built the cell or factory and learned about the different functions of the organelles or subcellular structures of the cell. Thank you for taking the time to understand what makes up a cell. You must remember that different organelles need to work together to make the cell function. One faulty part of the factory or cell can possibly result in a shutdown. Now we'd like to go through some questions that you can think of when you come across scientific literature. For instance, which components of the cell do you think can cause the most harm when changed or damaged? What would happen if the assembly line wasn't working? How is research conducted based on the components of the cell? Or what role does mitochondria play in cancer research? Thank you for reviewing this module. We'd also like to thank all of those involved in the creation of these videos, including the UICC and its patient Brigade, for providing feedback and shaping the direction of these modules. We invite you to reach out to us if you have any questions or feedback you'd like to share. Thanks again. Here is my reference where you can find more information on the factory analogy. Thanks again.